Hey everybody, it's Cheryl Lawson. So happy to be back on the Google Plus Hangouts live, talking with our friends from Step One Health and everybody involved in, the next step in making us all feel and be better. I'm so excited today to have a guest with us talking about a topic that's really, really popular. Cass. Nelson-Dooley. I told her I would put my Oklahoma twang on her last name. I'm trying to say not say Dooley. But welcome, Cass. Welcome to the Hangout.
Hi, thank you so much, Cheryl. Glad to be here.
So, I kind of started with that, the fact that leaky gut is something that we see all over the web now. People are writing articles about it. It's I live on the Twitter space, so there's a hashtag for leaky gut with everybody talking about it. What do you think? Why do you think it's being talked about so much here lately?
Well, I think that's a great question. I don't really know why it's particularly popular right now. In the integrative and functional medicine world, we've been talking about it a long time. We've been aware of it. So I really think it's getting popular right now just because it's really trickling down into the mainstream.
Right.
And that people are, aware of it, and they're talking about it, and their doctors are telling them that it may be related to their symptoms, and so I think that's feeding it. But
wonderful. Well, I need to back up. Can you tell everybody a little bit about your background and where you come from? Because you mentioned integrated medicine.
Sure. So I have a master's in pharmacy and biomedical science. I got that at the University of Georgia, and I worked in nutraceutical research and development for a couple of years, and then I moved into the lab testing industry, the integrative and functional medicine lab testing industry. So unlike, your typical cholesterol and blood glucose tests, we're interested in vitamins and minerals and amino acids and all those other markers that tell people about their health and their biochemistry. So I worked at Metametrix Clinical Laboratory for about 8 years. That was then Genova Diagnostics. And then later moved into my own company, Health First Consulting, and doing a lot of medical writing and consulting in this field.
Wonderful. So I think that, that really helps, because we're going to try to delve into just really what the topic is all about, what leaky gut is all about, but let's start there. So what is leaky gut?
Right. Leaky gut is the common name for intestinal permeability. So that's really kind of the scientific term, is intestinal permeability. If people want to look into it further or actually look at medical research, that's the word you're looking for. That's the phrase you're looking for. But so what is leaky gut? I like to use the skin as an example. So if you think about your skin is your barrier to the outside world. It protects the inside of your body from all the things around you, the pollen in the air right now, chemicals, toxins, all kinds of things, infections. So the skin protects the outside of our body, but I've heard some of my colleagues before have kind of said, hey, think of how your skin continues. It continues into the inside of your gastrointestinal tract. So inside your mouth, you could think of that as like, it is skin, it's like an endothelial cell, but down through the GI lining. So this skin, this barrier, it continues in through the GI tract. And that barrier has to be very strong, right? Because everything we put into our mouth, like, sometimes it's great healthy things like healthy food and water, but sometimes it's plastics, medications, toxins, bacteria, fungus, parasites. A lot of stuff comes into contact with our body through the gut. So that barrier in between what's going into your mouth and the rest of your body, that barrier has to be really strong. And if that barrier is broken down or damaged, then that is intestinal permeability, and that is leaky gut. So that barrier that protects you from the outside world is broken down, and things can get into your body that should not get into your body.
Wow. So So intestinal permeability, that is some sort of abuse to the outer lining. What really is that?
So intestinal permeability, it's like again, if we go back to the idea that it's like a skin lining, it's like a membrane. It's a membrane, and that membrane, if you think of the GI as a tube, right? There's a membrane surrounding that tube that's a barrier between the inside of the GI tract and your blood and the rest of your system. So that if that intestinal permeability means that membrane has holes in it, essentially. Like instead of being like a strong barrier, like a wall, it's more like a colander with a lot of holes in it, and it's not a strong barrier.
Wow. So what actually causes leaky gut? What can happen? What are the instances that cause leaky gut?
Well, there can be things that seem maybe not that harmful, like, drinking alcohol can cause leaky gut. But I think more typically we think of things like infections, like, bacterial or fungal or parasitic infections can cause leaky gut. Just in food allergies, inflammation in the GI tract can damage that skin on the inside, damage that barrier. There's, a lot of possibilities for the causes, but those are the main things we think about, because there's a lot of microbes in our GI tract, friendly bacteria, but if those get out of balance, it could harm the barrier. Also, like I was mentioning, chemicals in our diet could damage the barrier. Antibiotics can damage that barrier. So, I mean, it's always under stress, and it has the capability to heal. The GI tract is an organ that can heal itself, really. But if it's constantly under stress, or if it has a big trauma, then it can be damaged, and then that can set off a domino effect of other problems.
So that sounds like a huge problem that affects a wide variety of health issues or maybe health conditions. So what are some of the things that people are experiencing that may be a leaky gut issue that we're just not aware of?
You're exactly right, Cheryl, because I think the one reason people are talking so much about leaky gut is it's kind of the foundation. The gut is the foundation of health. We talk about that a lot. That's where we break down our food, we absorb it. That's where there's a blood supply that is, very important from the gut to the liver, and that can affect the whole body. So we always talk about the gut first, really, with integrative and functional health. And if that barrier is damaged, you're going to have a lot of problems. So I think one of the most obvious connections, and this might be why we're hearing more about it in the news, is autoimmune disease. Okay, so the gut and the immune system work hand in hand together. And so if there's damage there in the GI tract, then the immune system can't work properly. And it means, remember, that things are leaking through that shouldn't leak through, and that triggers the immune system. So that's just kind of the short answer to why we would think about autoimmune diseases. So like Hashimoto's thyroiditis, rheumatoid arthritis, multiple sclerosis, any type of chronic inflammation or pain that people can't get to the bottom of it. Cardiovascular disease potentially, right? We talk a lot about inflammation with cardiovascular disease, but also obesity. If there are problems, if a person has problems losing weight and they've tried all the obvious things, they could have leaky gut, and that could be holding them back and creating inflammation in their body. Skin problems. Wow. actually, I mean, I don't know how many people put that together, but leaky gut and skin issues go hand in hand. So rosacea, with the inflammation and redness on the face, acne, eczema.
Wow.
Also, and I mean, I know the list goes on and on, but I want to mention one other thing, Cheryl.
No, please do. I'm just amazed at all of the things you've already mentioned.
Right,
So please.
right. One more thing is the brain and the nervous system, because we talk a lot about the gut-brain connection. And, for someone who's having anxiety, depression, that isn't easily treated, that is not, it's not getting better despite the best efforts. Brain fog, problems concentrating, those kinds of things can actually be a sign that there's a problem in the gut, a problem with, inflammation that's starting in the gut and affecting the brain.
Wow. So you mentioned earlier that, sorry, I'm getting an echo here. So you mentioned earlier that the gut, it could heal itself. So how do you fix leaky gut?
Right. You can fix leaky gut, just like you can fix, when your skin is damaged. Some of the supplements, generally supplements and diet are the big approaches to heal leaky gut. Glutamine is a supplement that's very, it's kind of gobbled up by the GI lining. It's like a very nutritious food for the GI lining. Probiotics are really important. Remember, those friendly bacteria help the gut heal. Let's see, Saccharomyces boulardii, that's a friendly yeast that can help heal the gut. There are herbs that can help, like aloe and deglycerinated licorice, it's called DGL.
Okay, thank you for that. I was going to say I'm going to put a list of all of these things that you mentioned in the comments and the description, but you'll have to help me with that.
Right. We'll have to definitely check how that one's spelled.
Exactly.
Let's see, immunoglobulins, that's a kind of a newer supplement to help heal the gut. That's supplementing the immune system in the gut. You'll see that available on the market out there. It's immunoglobulins. Some people use colostrum. So all of these things, vitamin A, zinc, carnosine, there's many supplements out there that are designed to soothe the GI lining. Remember, because we're thinking about an irritated, inflamed, leaky membrane. And so you want to soothe it, and you want to, nourish the immune system and give it the good bacteria that it's made to work best with.
Fantastic. So how do you know if you have leaky gut?
Those symptoms that we talked about, the illnesses and symptoms that we talked about earlier would be my first clue. Autoimmune disease, neurological disease, like we talked about, anxiety, depression, headaches. Also, chronic gastrointestinal symptoms, diarrhea, bloating, gas, constipation, irritable bowel type symptoms. Those would be good types of symptoms to check on a leaky gut test. So
those are the conditions that would exhibit then before you take the test. So, why haven't we heard about this test, I guess, before? Why is it so? I mean, I personally have been told I have autoimmune disease for years.
Okay.
And I'm just now hearing about leaky gut. I know we talked about maybe just some advancements, but why do you think doctors haven't really been mentioning at least the test that's available for leaky gut?
That's a great question, Cheryl. I think it's a little bit of a lack of knowledge about it, a lack of awareness. You know, the concept of intestinal permeability or leaky gut, it's out there in the research. This is not just an idea on the fringes. You know, this is real. And this test, this leaky gut test that uses lactulose and mannitol, those very sugars are used in the research. So this is, I think, a strong, substantiated test. I just think that there's a lag between the research and between what's working to help people get better and then what's being adopted by mainstream medicine and into normal clinical practice. Yeah. You know, some clinicians on the web, you can see they're critiquing it, they don't believe it, they're kind of skeptical. And so there's still, I think, some controversy for certain doctors. And that's why some people probably haven't heard anything about this test before.
Wonderful. Well, so we're talking about the test. I will put a link to the test. You've been working with our partners over at my Med Lab on creating the accessibility of the test. And the great thing is that when people get their results, they can have an opportunity to talk to you about their results.
Absolutely, yeah.
I think that really is the great thing is even if you're even if you have the test available, maybe having somebody to talk over the results before you go to your doctor, so you actually know which questions to ask, I think is really invaluable.
Right, right, and I think that's a really great service that my Med Lab offers, is to help people get educated about what do these results mean for me and how do I move forward and what kinds of things should I be talking to my doctor about.
Mm-hmm. So what other kind of testing is recommended, or what should I also be testing if I'm testing for leaky gut?
So this leaky gut test, it measures two sugars. Basically, I'll just kind of describe how this test works. Sure. You take a sugar solution, you drink it down. It doesn't taste bad. It's should kind of, I think, semi-sweet. And then the test measures how much of these sugars are found in your urine. So if you have a strong, healthy gut barrier, then those sugars should not go high in your urine. They should be normal or low. Mm-hmm. If you have a leaky gut, that means that the sugars passed through the barrier. They shouldn't, but they did, and that got into your blood, and then that was processed eventually by your kidney, and it was high in the urine. So if lactulose or mannitol or both are high in your urine, it means that you have leaky gut. So I wanted to just kind of spell that out, and then so this test really tells you if you have leaky gut. It doesn't tell you why you have leaky gut.
There's the key.
Right. So, I mean, that is a critical piece of information, but then sometimes people want to go further. They need to check some other areas, like food allergies. That would be an obvious place to look for why a person has leaky gut.
So you mentioned food allergies before. I just want to make sure we touch on, do food allergies cause leaky gut, or is it the other way around? I guess would be my question.
I do not know if it's the chicken or the egg, and I don't think we do know. Because it kind of turns into a vicious cycle. So let's say I'm allergic to, I have a food sensitivity to milk. Mm-hmm. So if I'm drinking milk products and eating cheese and things like that, then that can stimulate my immune system in my gut and irritate my GI tract, and that could set off a cascade that will lead to leaky gut. Which then, with leaky gut, what happens is you develop many food sensitivities, because all the foods you eat are slipping through that barrier. They shouldn't, but they are, and they're triggering the immune system and making the immune system angry, because they should not be able to easily pass into the body without, restrictions there at the barrier. So then when you have lots of food allergies, you have more inflammation, which creates more damage to the barrier. So then you have this vicious cycle. And I think that's why we don't know really where it starts. But, in that example, in theory, I could heal my leaky gut with time and effort. And eventually, if I stayed away from milk, I could probably have a healthy gut barrier.
Wow. That's
well, I hope I'm not, losing you here.
No, I think that makes a lot of sense. I think that makes a whole lot of sense, and I think we've talked a little bit on our Hangouts about elimination diets, but I think that takes elimination to a whole other level as it relates to leaky gut. So that's really great information.
You're really right. I mean, that's where the elimination diet comes in, and the leaky gut and the elimination diet and food allergies. I mean, that's an area where a lot of doctors spend time trying to heal people, because that's that can be a long journey getting better.
Right.
And the other I see you're about to say something. I did want to mention stool testing. So do you want to say anything else though about?
No, I was gonna ask you about a little bit more about food, but we can go to the other part of the testing, and then we can go back to food and supplements, because I really I'm zoning in.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of questions about food allergies, and I mean it's a big topic. So, okay, well, before we go to that, then I'll just mention another common test. If you have leaky gut, let's imagine you have leaky gut and you've already run your food allergy tests and they're normal. You don't see any big problems, or maybe you just have a few food sensitivities and you've taken those out of your diet, so you've addressed it, but you're still having problems and your leaky gut is not healing. Then a common test to run is a stool test. Or a small intestinal bacterial overgrowth test. But basically, that's like a breath test, measuring the bacteria in your upper GI, and then the stool test measures the bacteria, fungus, parasites in your colon. Yeah. So this is important because if you have an imbalance in the bugs in your GI tract, then you often have illness, and it can cause leaky gut. So that's why we need to look at those tests also. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I wanted to go and talk a little bit more about the supplements that you mentioned. And is there a combination, I think, of food, proper food, elimination, and supplementation that we should be considering to kind of soothe and heal leaky gut issues?
Yes, I mean, if you don't specifically have a food allergy test to help guide you what your food should be, a lot of people just come off of the ones that are the most notorious for inflaming the body, like gluten, dairy, soy, corn, citrus, and eggs. Those are like your top most kind of suspicious foods. Mm-hmm. So people can come off of those totally. It is challenging at first, but there's a lot of alternatives. And we talked about some of those supplements, lots of water, and really, of course, like getting junk food out, getting sugar out. Those are, you are, your bacteria, and your immune system is like consuming all this stuff too. So you really want to put everything in your mouth. You want it to be kind of pure and healthy things. Mm-hmm. So did you have any other questions about the supplements particularly?
Well, or? I think why, my question is, if you have one of these other symptoms occurring, like the inflammation or joint pain, which is kind of a systematic result of the inflammation. Right. Is it wise to try to heal the symptom first, or the leaky gut issue, or should we be doing everything at once?
Most doctors do everything at once, you know, because you're right. Sometimes you can't get better until your symptoms are a little better, you know. So sometimes you do really have to just deal with the symptoms, but you always want to address that underlying problem, because that if that doesn't get fixed, you know, you're just kind of on a downward spiral until it does.
That's awesome. So I think that's all the questions that we had sent in, and all the questions that we had from people watching. I'm sure as soon as we end this, I'll have 30 more questions. So you'll have to join us again for a hangout. So to answer more questions, and I'm sure once people see this on YouTube, and we'll definitely send this version out on our social channels, I'm sure people will have more questions for you, Cass.
Absolutely. I'd love to answer them. I think this is really great that you guys are getting the word out so people can take charge, because, you know, you can't always rely on other people to, you know, give you this information. So.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll definitely do this again.
Awesome. That sounds great. Thank you, Cheryl.
Thank you.